Hi there. Today we're going to be taking a look at a snippet of text that I'm using in a project where I get a template for a types file. Now the challenge I had was grabbing the file name without the extension of my types file and then appending .json here. So the challenge really is, how do I get that file name without the file extension? Now since we're using Emacs, we are creating a snippet using Yasnippet. So we're going to be able to use some eLisp code within our snippet here. And this might not look very friendly right now, but we are going to use this little bit of eLisp, which we're going to build in just a moment, and then add that extension of .json, and we're just going to return that as a string within our snippet. Let's go back and open up a new buffer here. It's going to be an eLisp buffer, and we're going to get started right from the basics. Like, we're going to go and provide this atom of hello world, and this is an expression that I am going to evaluate using eval last SEXP. S stands for symbolic, EXP stands for expression. I can also do a keyboard shortcut here, space MEE, and we can see that this returns hello world as a string. Now that's not being placed in the buffer just yet. Now we can create these symbolic expressions in eLisp, so I'm going to place hello world in these parentheses, but we get an error. It says invalid function hello world. Hello world as a string is not a function name. So let's give a function name here, like type of, and provide it the argument hello world. I place my cursor at the end to evaluate this last expression, and it returns an object of type string. Let's try another one. Instead of hello world, let's provide 42, and we see that this returns an integer. We can also do something like 42.3. and this will return a float. Notice that I have my function name here, type of, and I can even place that argument on a new line, making it a little bit easier to read, and I still get that same return value of float. Let's change that 42.3 to actually a function, which is buffer name. And now when I go ahead and evaluate this, it says that this evaluates to an object of type string. So I know buffer name is going to return a string. Let's go ahead and see what that is. Let's go ahead and run buffer name. So it is a function name without any arguments, and it returns almost what we want, the name of the current buffer. That would be my types file. But we still want that .json at the end and not the .el. Now, before I do that, I just want to reiterate that we can create a function here with the name, placing those arguments, and you can have more than 2 arguments. So here I'm adding these 3 values, and again, we can place each of those arguments on a new line to make it a little bit easier to read. Now, up until this point, we've had to go to the end to evaluate it, and that result, we could see it temporarily, but as soon as we pressed another key, it was gone. So how do we get that result to show in the buffer? Well, we're going to use a function name called insert. And let's try it out with this value of 2. Now here we're going to get an error, and the reason is the insert function is expecting arguments which are strings. So now you can see when I evaluate this, that value or that return value of 2 is actually persistent in the buffer. That's so cool. Let's put in our hello world here and try it again, and you can see when I evaluate it, I get hello world, which is now persistent in the buffer. Now the problem is I always have to go to the end of my expression to evaluate it. So we're going to fix that. So I'm going to go up and insert another argument here, which is just going to be 2 new lines, which is just a string. And now I can just evaluate the entire buffer. So I'm going to go eval buffer instead. And now we get that hello world placed inside the buffer 2 lines down. Now let's replace hello world with our buffer name. Evaluate the expression, and we get my unique name.el. Remember, we want that .el to be .json instead of .el. So we're going to take buffer name, and it is going to be placed in as an argument to yet another function. So we have 2 arguments here for our insert function, and that second argument is going to be a function which is going to have the name file name sans extension. Sounds French. Now, what's going to happen here is we're going to pass in buffer name to this function call, and it is going to return exactly what we wanted, just the file name without the extension, but we're missing that extension .json. So how are we going to do it? Well, we have two arguments here. Let's provide a third one, which is that string.json, and we get exactly what we wanted, the file name with that new extension .json. All right, let's go back into our types file and start from the beginning. We had our snippet that we can access through JT_tab, and remember the challenge was getting that file name with the .json extension. Going into our snippet, we can see the line that made this happen. In fact, we can now see that eLisp code that we used to extract just the file name without the extension, and then we see here we can just add that .json as part of our string. And there you have it, a little bit of eLisp to make our Yasnippet a little bit more dynamic within Emacs. My name is Mark. Thank you for watching.